Welcome to PredWings podcast, where Smashville and Hockeytown collide. And now your hosts, Rhett and Ron White and D-Law Dan Lawless. Welcome to PredWings podcast, episode 109, and social media, PredWings podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and at PredWings Pod on X and YouTube. And you can always listen and follow us on Podbean. And our email is predwingspodcast@gmail.com. So before we jump into the Beer League Minute, I don't really have anything really before that.
No? You didn't have a game tonight?
Not part of the Beer League Minute.
Oh, okay. What'd you do today this afternoon?
Not related to hockey.
No, come on, D-Law.
So, I guess we
celebrated there.
I know one thing we can celebrate is our new recording day coming soon. Probably shifting on sometime in March, probably. Back to Fridays, maybe. But I guess we could just roll right into our Beer League Minute. So this week, well, actually, it was last week. Actually, just past Thursday. Game we should have won. Team we played had one win. Fell behind 2-0 early. 2 rebound goals that should have had. No reason to. I mean, that should. That those 2 goals should never went in. We did rebounds, just sloppy
big
rebounds,
fat, juicy rebounds.
And then we did cut the lead finally. Made it 2-1, but kind of feel like the Predators, because that's about all the scoring we had. Second period, a bad goal. Kind of short side. And then third period, another bad goal that I should have had. Puck came from the corner, passed right to the front, and it went in the net. He was standing there, standing all alone in front of the net. And it's those goals that I mean, those are the goals you need to have. I mean, any goalie would stop a goal right in front of the net like that. So we ended up losing 4-1. And it's going to be really hard. We to try to get in the top 4. We got some tough teams, and kind of like the Predators. Although we might be a little bit better position than they are. I don't have any. I just don't. I don't understand the Predators at all.
I don't either. We were talking about this today, and I mean, on paper, they look to be probably one of, if not the best team in hockey. But they're just not. I don't know. They just can't produce.
Well, I guess too many, too many stars, maybe too many. I don't know, but so they lose to Florida. I don't know. It's just a bad. Like they lost. It was 4-1. I don't know. And then they go into actually they're finishing their homestand against Winnipeg, and they actually pull off a 2-1 victory. Kind of surprising. Which it ended Winnipeg's 11-game winning streak. Maybe that's why. Maybe had a chance to end their win streak and being the division rival. Maybe they got up to the game a little bit better. And then they go to New York on the island. Embarrassing. I mean, 7-4. Pretty embarrassing when you put in. Not only do you put in a goal, but you put in a goal when you pull your goaltender, and you had the puck in the other team's offensive zone, or your offensive zone, I guess. And not only that, your superstar Stamkos. Well, maybe he's not a superstar anymore, but he was at one time. Was going to pass the puck, and somehow I don't know if it was just because whoever you passed to at the defense, I guess, missed the puck or just miscommunication or something, but it just ended up going all the way down the ice in the empty net. And of course, not as if that's not bad enough. Guess who gets the goal?
Enlighten us.
Well, uh, Ilya Sorokin. Now,
Do 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 do.
let me see if you can guess what position he plays.
I'm gonna say I think he is between the pipes. Would my thought of Ilya Sorokin obviously be right? Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, that's right. They gave a goalie a goal, unassisted, and of course,
And untouched.
oh, so I figured, maybe this is back-to-back games. Maybe they can kind of like shake it off, playing no travel involved. Got to play the Rangers at the Garden, and I wonder if they even showed up. They couldn't even score a goal. Got shut out 4-0, and I mean the Rangers aren't exactly like Tampa Bay or Florida or Winnipeg as far as elite winning teams. They've had their struggles. They've given up a lot of goals to teams, and they're kind of inconsistent. And I don't know, but that's all I got for them. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you
I
guys
mean,
have, like I said,
I
on
mean,
paper, you guys look incredible, but once once you put the rubber to the road, you guys just don't look that great. Like I don't know, I can't figure you guys out. I've told you that before. But it's true. I can't figure you out.
and they did score 4 goals against the Islanders, but in those 4 goals, uh, let's see if you can. I mean, I'll just name off the the names and see where the stars are. Colton Sissons, Mark Dagaizo, Cole Smith. With Cole Smith had two actually.
And those were your
Uh,
goal scorers?
those were the goal scorers, the four goals.
Well, I mean, at least you're getting some secondary scoring,
Yeah, but
which is big.
where were the big name? In that, I mean, you got these big names, and they're not on the score sheet.
No, I don't know where they are.
Let's see real quick. Philip Forsberg had 3 shots. Marchessault had 4 shots. O'Reilly 4 shots, and Stamkos 3 shots.
Yeah, they're just getting shut down. I mean, at this point, you got to ride it out. But if Bruno's back next year, I think you got to have some eyes on Trotz. Maybe not quite yet, but if it doesn't improve in the offseason, the beginning of next year, then it's time for a change. And if Trotz isn't going to make it, somebody's going to make it for him.
You can kind of argue to get rid of him now, but it's kind of like a waste of season because I mean you're not gonna even if you
Are
do.
you guys officially eliminated?
I don't think they're officially eliminated yet, but let's see where they are. They have 49 points, and the second wild card has 65. And there's see they've played 60 games, so that's about roughly 22 games left. So that's 44 points. So I mean, even if they win out, I mean, who knows what the point wild card's going to be? Probably what 90. I'm thinking like it has been, but
Most likely. Yeah, I think they're pretty much all
even
officially eliminated. I mean, I think if you see a few more wins within the division in the conference, you'll probably because I mean that's you guys winning out and everybody that you need to losing out, which is just not realistic.
in the third in the Central in the division, the third place team's got 74, and you know. Even Colorado has got 72, and they're in wild cards, but well, one.
Yeah.
So, um, so even if you fire Bruno this year, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. Even if they do, if I mean, not saying that they would go on a win streak like a lot of teams have that replace coaches, but it might also, I don't know how it could also backfire. Depending on how the players feel about them. They might not like that, and it's kind of a tricky situation. They're already getting rid of players. I might as well. I mean, I don't really want to jump the gun real quick, but they traded Nyquist for a draft pick. I think it was like a second round pick. Yeah, it was a second round pick.
Where he went.
He had 9 goals and 12 assists. Of course, they traded him to Minnesota. Minnesota seems like they have a lot of former Predators, but Nyquist actually was on Minnesota. This is his second time on Minnesota. Earlier he had actually got traded to Minnesota from Columbus. Yeah, it was Yeah, got traded from Columbus to Minnesota.
See, but what I don't understand about that is they gave him away for a second, and they retained half his salary. They traded him interconference. and
I,
Minnesota's not going to give you a good pick. Like the likelihood of that is very low. They're pretty high. I mean, they're what, fifth in the conference, fourth in the conference.
they are, they're
I mean, it's
yeah
not like you're
they're
trading with like
third
Chicago,
third in the division.
where you're going to get like, the odds are you're going to get a shot. I mean, you got to find those diamonds in the rough, but it's just not like you're going to get a better draft pick.
And
You're gonna get a better draft pick drafting or trading with anybody else.
probably nobody else really wanted him. I mean, he
He
did
sounds like
pretty
a
good
clear
last
cut.
season. He did pretty good last season, but like I said, this year he had 9 goals, 12 assists, and he was a -20. And then I don't know if he was in the lineup. I can check real quick, but uh, no, Minnesota got shut out. So I mean, obviously you can't blame him for that, but they got him for for secondary scoring. So I mean, and that's pretty much what he was in Nashville. Um, but more or less, more. I mean, more than that, he was more of a playmaker for the Predators. You know, when he was on Forsberg's line, like going back to last season. But that I figured I just wanted to throw it as I was talking about the Predators, and that's basically the only really major trade that they made so far. The trade deadline is the 7th, so I'm sure there are probably going to be a few more. And Trotz has came out and said he is willing to trade anybody and trade anyone that wants to go. So I think he was kind of like hinting at like the big
Time for a
stars.
rebuild.
So I mean, yeah, but I think he was more or less talking about the
Are you
stars. You
finally
know, if
gonna
you don't
rip the
want to be
band-aid
here.
off and stop calling it a retool or a realignment or whatever the hell you guys are calling it? And let's just call it a rebuild. Start it. Start it before it's too late, or else you're gonna have this hockey for a long time.
I guess I'm more frustrated this year because of the lineup they've had this year, and you expect them to score goals, and you expect them to be competitive. If you didn't have those star players, and you had and they tend to be more. The last couple weeks, they tend to go more towards the youth movement. You know, playing a lot of and Cole Smith and no the names I mentioned that scored against the Islanders. Well, only 3 players, but they were all younger players that are coming up. Mark Delgado, that was his first. I think that might have been only his first game of the season in Nashville. Not his first NHL game because I believe he has played more the last year or two. But it just that you know it might not be as frustrating if we had the young core and not like the Stankos and Marchessaults and even O'Reilly. I mean, as much as I like O'Reilly, maybe it's time to move him. But yeah, maybe I should just not be frustrated and just expect losses because I don't know. And I don't know how they managed to still fill the seats. I mean, watching games in Nashville it does look a little empty, but not as empty as you would think. Judging by where they are in the standings. I mean, they're obviously not selling out, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But um, I guess we can move right into your Detroit, and hopefully it's a little bit more upbeat.
Well, it starts upbeat. Um, we got our young shining defensive player. He's Simon Edvinsson gets a game winner. Detroit started out, I don't want to say slow in this game because I actually thought Detroit played pretty well. I thought they kept up, they kept up the pace. They matched the physicality. And we got a couple of goals from unlikely people. I mean, Vladimir Tarasenko, that's our secondary scoring type player right there. And Simon Edmondson gets, the game tying goal and the game winning goal. Now, I'm going to mention a player that we'll hear a couple of times here, Alex DeBrincat. Got his 24th assist on the Edmondson goal. And I thought overall that Detroit they looked good in this game. It was a bounce back game for him. Cam Talbot played a good game. And I just think that this was a win that, Detroit needed to have, especially after dropping last week to the Wild. It was good for them to get that bounce back. So we're going to move into the Red Wings and Columbus in Detroit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this was not a good game. This was one of those games where Detroit, they outshot Columbus 31-30, but they weren't scoring opportunities. It's very deceiving on the score sheet because, they were putting a puck on the net, but when you're shooting it right into the goalie's pads, right into his chest, it's not good. We didn't have traffic. They looked awful. I mean, the Red Wings, they did. They looked bad. And even McClellan called out Larkin. It was just one of those times where, the captain had to eat crow and, he bounced back a little bit. But, yeah, the Wings just did not look good. First period, they looked all right. Took it into the, 0-0 into the first. But then DeBrincat got his 27th goal of the season. So, again, he's our shining star at the moment. He's on pace to have what I think they said about another 40-goal season, possibly. I bet you he'll get mid-30s, but yeah, he's been playing great hockey. But this game was just a train wreck. The Wings just could not get anything going, couldn't get any opportunities, and Columbus just came in and they end up winning the game. So we do get redemption, though. As a lot of you who do listen to this, I'm sure you follow one of the two teams or at least know a little bit about hockey. And the Wings came out, and I thought the Wings played an excellent Stadium Series game. I thought they played very well. I thought they competed, and I think they made a great run in the third period. DeBrincat gets 2 goals. He's got 4 points in 3 games. He's having a great season. So he's got 29 on the season. Showtime, he's got another goal. Now, at this point in the third period, the Wings come back and they get 2 unanswered goals to tie up the game. DeBrincat ties the game at 16:36. Just a great shot. I mean, now he's one of those guys, and Ferraro said it actually very well. Goal scorers just find the net. And looking at the angle of this shot, there was nothing to see. And like me, I would have shot it about 4 feet wide. But he shot it underneath the defenseman's arm and then over, I don't even know, I forget who was playing goal for them, but over his shoulder. It was just a perfect shot. Ties the game up late in the third period. They get that spark, and it was just, it was energetic for the team. Now, we're going to fast forward here. Third period. I think it was like 2 minutes and some change left. 2 minutes and like 17 seconds, I think, or 10 seconds. I don't know, whatever it was. Justin Danforth is coming down and jockeying with Simon Edmondson. He gets his stick up, whacks Edmondson right in the face. Edmondson goes down like a bag of bricks, and Danforth gets, a free shot right at the goal. Scores the game winner. Adam Fantilli, nets the empty netter. Now, if any of you had the opportunity to watch this goal, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go back onto, you can probably go into NHL.com and find that particular goal by Justin Danforth. how the refs don't call that, because again, the puck was right there. So maybe besides a lineman watching the line, you should be watching the play. So you should see Danforth and Edvinson jockeying for position. The stick comes right up, you know, corkscrews freaking Edvinson. He drops, but because there's no blood, they can't call intent to blow the whistle. They met because they obviously knew they missed the call. So they met at center ice, had a conversation, and because there was no injury on the play, they cannot use the intent. So the Red Wings lose, and game over. And I'm going to take it into a rant here real
But,
quick, just a real quick one.
but I just want to say the NHL is supposed to be so big on high sticks and high hits and head hits, and a play where I mean, literally, it was a high stick, and I don't understand how the refs did not
I
call
don't
that.
know. I don't know how you miss it. See, this is going to come. And now, one thing I want to say is after watching this game, now take my. It could have been Boston and Pittsburgh, two teams that I just do not care for. That same exact play could have happened. Brandon Carlo could have came up high on, or I'm sorry, Malkin could have come up high on Brandon Carlo, sending Carlo down. Malkin goes in and scores a game winner. That's a heartbreaker. That's definitely, like, I would have said the same thing in that game. And I think that scoring plays, I think you should be able to challenge a play like that. Especially to your point, like the NHL is trying to eliminate head hits, they're trying to make the game safer, but yet they're allowing blatant and obvious things to just go uncalled because it's all a human judgment call. Now, on that same token, humans do make mistakes. I myself make mistakes. But when you have the opportunity to correct your mistake, you should take that, especially at a professional level. Doesn't mean that we don't need refs. It doesn't mean that we have to take the refs off the ice because robots or machines or sensors or lasers are not going to stop players from beating each other's heads in. So they're the voice of reason out there, and they're a part of the game. They should go nowhere. But I do think that they should be held more accountable, just like anybody else doing their job. And I think on scoring plays, and I'm not saying, if it's an offside, just to say it's an offside or not an offside, I don't think that should be challenged. Everything needs to be a scoring play. But I think in that scenario, they should have been able to say, hey, I'm challenging this play for a high stick. He obviously came up, whacked him in the face. You should have called a penalty. It's going to be a 2-minute minor, and we're going to continue play. Detroit very well could have lost the game even in that scenario because Columbus is playing very good hockey. I'm not going to take that away from them. But now I'm putting my tinfoil hat on. So anyone who does listen or download this, I don't know who you are or what team you affiliate with, if any. But I'm putting my foil hat. I'm not one of these people. But I do think the NHL has an infatuation with Columbus and the Goudreau situation. Now, I do want to say this. We already sent our heartfelt condolences on the scenario. I think it's tragic. I think it's avoidable. And Johnny Hockey should be playing hockey today. Same with Matthew. They should be playing hockey. And what happened was it was tragic. It was heartbreaking. And it was awful. But the way that now the NHL has adopted this story and they're shoving it down your throat almost makes me more in tuned or more inclined to think that, yeah, maybe those types of calls are going to go in favor of Columbus. And I don't want to think that, and I don't like to think that, and that's where my foil hat is. I don't really think that's happening, but they interviewed his wife during it. She looked so very uncomfortable, and it felt forced. And I just feel so terrible for her. Like, she just needs to enjoy the game. And, there's people that are honoring her. I mean, it's great that she's there. It's great that it was tremendous to see his name in the U.S. locker room during the Four Nations tournament. And I'm not saying we forget about it, but we also don't allow it to affect the play of the game. The guys still have to play. If they want to play for him, I applaud that, and I hope they take it to the Stanley Cup Finals. I would be not opposed to that. Obviously, I want Detroit to do it, but I wouldn't be opposed if Columbus does that. But to have this narrative shoved down your throat, I mean, they mentioned Johnny Gaudreau probably. I mean, if anyone fact check me, I'll be wrong. So I'm going to just say I'm erring on the high side. I would say 50 to 100 times.
But is that the media or the NHL? I mean, obviously the NHL was responsible for bringing them in, and and the team, in which they should honor them. But I mean, maybe I didn't see it, so maybe did he go overboard? But as far as like the interviews and stuff like that, that's more? I would think that's more media than NHL.
Yeah, but I mean, who does it? I mean, it's an NHL event. They probably, I mean, they can sanction or unsanction an interview. I mean, just because it's an NHL game, I mean, they're not going to come and interview me. But I just think that, again, I have no problem with it. None. I just don't want it to affect, the outcome of games to support a narrative that's being set. And it might be set by the media. But if there's money backing it and there's money to be made, then why would you not flow with it? And I don't think that's the case. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I don't think that. I don't think any referee, and I bet you if we asked the referees in the Detroit game, they would say that they would reverse that call tomorrow. But in that scenario, they can't, and it is what it is. It's just unfortunate circumstances. But I still stand firm that I think that they should be held accountable. And a scoring play of any kind with any infraction, period, like too many men, anything like that, should be allowed for review. And if you lose the review, you get a 2-minute unsportsmanlike or delay a game or whatever they call it now. And I agree to that. But I do think that should be a viable option for coaches to use in those circumstances. And I don't think it's going to happen much more than anything does today, but that would have been one of them. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm leaving it. One update for the Red Wings. Andrew Kopp is out. I bet he tore his labrum in his shoulder. That's my guess when it comes out.
Well, even if it was a scoring play, because I mean it should have been a penalty. I mean, high stick.
Well, you got to think about it. Those things like that happen like in play that are missed that don't affect the outcome of the game. You'll hear about those going to like player safety.
And the thing with this incident right here, it was a high stick. So I mean, obviously, it's a penalty, high sticking penalty. It's black and white. There's no gray area. It's either high stick or not. Especially it contacted another player. I mean, obviously, that's why it's a high stick. Are you saying that
in a goal scoring scenario, you should be allowed to challenge?
Well, even if it wasn't a scoring chance, because it was still be a penalty.
See, my thing is, I don't want to delay the whole game.
But I mean, that's not really my point. My point, more or less, is even if this was accidental, your player is still responsible for his stick, and you have to be in control of your stick, just like you have to be in control of your body and everything.
You might feel that way. I personally don't. But stuff like that happens during a game.
You're a moron.
Yes, I am. But stuff like that happens during a game. Like we can't review everything in a game. You just can't. Like there's going to be bad calls. You'll get a makeup call here or there. Unfortunately, maybe that was an opportunity in the Detroit game, but it was too late in the game to have that opportunity to get that call back. But I personally don't think you do that, because then we'll be challenging everything all game. It'll be a 6-hour event, and you're going to lose interest.
Yeah, you still have to have a limit to your challenges. Maybe 2 challenges a game, I think, football's got what 3, but I mean I think right now hockey's got 1. I think. You think it's limited what you can challenge. I think it's offside, and I think it has to be on a goal, and also uh, penalties as far as the delay game. I think they can challenge that if it was called. I believe something like that, but maybe limited it to 2 challenges a game. Maybe just 1.
Yeah, I don't know
Because they only get
I
1
mean,
timeout, so
yeah, I
maybe.
don't know.
I mean, not that. I mean, maybe it's a little bit hard. I mean, because if you lose a challenge, you get a penalty, and that could really swing the momentum. A little score, but and I mean, I don't know, but the time because not a lot of teams take timeouts. But I wonder if it'd be less severe if they say if you wrong on a challenge, then you forfeit your timeout instead of a penalty. But I don't, maybe
I
that.
think instead of going round and round, I just think at the end of the day, me personally, my final thought is any scoring play has the ability to be challenged for any reason. For breaking any infraction or for creating any infraction. But any scoring play, in my opinion, should have that opportunity.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, that is a good point, and I just in limit. If they don't want to do that because it'll slow the game down, put a limit on how
I
long
don't
they
think
can
you'll,
review.
but I don't think
Which
you'll see too much of it because nobody wants to go on a shorthanded. I mean, that's the nice thing about this. The NFL, you lose a timeout. Now, if you changed it to where if you challenged it and you lost a timeout and 10 yards, now you got a little more skin in the game. Kind of like hockey, you go shorthanded if you lose it. So you got to think real long and hard. If you want to go shorthanded, because a team like Detroit, they have a terrible penalty kill. So I think McClellan's got to be pretty darn sure that whatever happened was in fact a good challengeable play because he does not want to send this team out on a penalty kill.
and all team. Well, I don't want. I shouldn't say all because, but I'm probably pretty sure all teams do. But most teams have somebody up. I believe they're probably up in the press box or
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
they've got their own
They're
thing
looking
anyway.
at videos, and so they're pretty much know, almost instantly whether they can win or lose a challenge, and I
I mean, they
believe
have to act like really quickly though, and sometimes they got to
in
just make a judgment call.
that situation had just happened recently in Nashville. I don't remember. Going back, I don't remember what game it was recently. I don't remember if it was a goal for them or against them, but I mean, it was like uh, the way they challenged it was almost immediately, and they did win it. They did win it. I can't remember if it was like for them or against them, but I mean they challenged it like I mean it was real quick within before they dropped the puck, and I mean to do that they know I mean they had to know and pretty much that they were going to win it. So and they didn't it wasn't like it was like 2 3 minutes after or well usually it's they don't
They
wait
still get
two
a
minutes to
timer.
cut the puck,
That's the other
but
thing I think they should do is every reviewed play gets a timer.
oh, definitely, probably give them 60 seconds.
Yep.
1 minute should be enough.
If you can't,
If it's inconclusive, you're not gonna see it. If it takes you 1 minute, it's obviously inconclusive.
agreed.
So, um, I don't want to move on, and if unless
No, I'm good.
we're done
Let's
with
roll.
this, but I just want to briefly. I know we mentioned contracts last show. As far as two-way contracts, I don't believe I can't remember who we were talking about. I believe one of those Predators. But as far as an NHL two-way contract, um, it's basically what it covers is the salary. Obviously, it's basically for the salary cap situation is why they do that. So when a player gets a two-way contract, when he's in NHL, he's going to get a higher salary. And then when he's down in a minor league like the HL, it's obviously going to be a lower salary. So by having a two-way contract, it's basically helps with the salary cap. So if they, depending on who the player is,
pay him an AHL rate if you
yeah,
need to.
and when he's down in minors, it's obviously not going to count against the NHL salary cap. So it's purely a financial. And pretty much all contracts are like that anyway. But just wanted to clarify that. Since we kind of left it up in the air last show. But I guess we can kind of roll right into the Ovechkin thing before we, because we tend to, we have a few trades.
We only got a couple of shows left before we're going to be talking about a new goal scoring record.
And yeah, I know. I mean, he's down to 11. He's played 1,468 games. I believe he scored. They just lost, and 3-1, I believe it was, and the one goal was his. So, I mean, he could very well do it in less games too. And I know you mentioned last show when we were talking about him. Probably the only time we'll see it, at least in our lives. Yeah. And I did some little digging, and it probably won't ever happen. I don't want to say ever happen again, but it's over the next 20, 30 years, it definitely won't happen. Because looking at the only active players in the top 50 of goal scoring, Crosby, Stamkos, and Malkin. And Crosby has played 1,329 games, and he has 610 goals. So, I mean, and he's getting older. He's like in his 30s, I believe, right? So unless he goes on he's like 200 and some goals behind, almost 300. So unless he really lights the lamp a lot, he won't even be close to it. Stamkos, he's 30 something. He's got 572. Well, when I check, I don't think he scored the last couple of games, so he definitely isn't scoring this year. And then Malkin has 508 goals. So those are your top candidates that are next in line to Ovechkin. So I think the odds are pretty well in favor of not going to happen again.
Nope, I think you're right. It's exciting. We'll keep you updated.
And I don't. Do you want to go through some injuries? I don't think there's too many injuries.
The only one I know of is, what's his name? Andrew Kopp is out for the season.
Oh, for the season?
Yep.
Marchand just got injured against the Penguins. He missed the last game. I think it was the Bruins loss. No, yeah. The Bruins just lost, I believe it was. Who did they lose to? Or did they win? But in any case, Marchand is injured. Yes, they lost 1-0 to Minnesota. Actually, who scored that game for Minnesota? Another Goudreau. I don't think they're related, though. And actually, I think that's the only injury that I saw. Other than Marchand, obviously, I think the Predators. no injury, no current injury for that. There was, as far as fines, suspensions, there wasn't any. I think the only suspension since we talked last show was Zegras. Did we talk about that last season?
Nope.
Last show. That happened against Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
That was he got suspended 3 games.
Yep.
For interference.
That was coming.
And then, of course, Hartman's 10-game suspension got reduced to 8. And I remember talking about, when they were appealing it and digging in, I thought that was basically for financial reasons, but obviously it worked to get him reduced to 8 games. So he's got 2 less games, which in this situation, I mean, it's still 8 games, but that was a very severe incident that he did, and it should have been upheld to 10 games. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I think we got a bunch of trades. I think we talked about, did we talk about Billy Huso? That happened on the 24th.
Yeah, he got traded. We did for future considerations. That's right. We did talk about that.
And so the only really, the Preds, they made a couple other deals. They're just young prospect deals, so I'm not going to really mention those. I think Minnesota on the 26th, that was no really major players. And then March 1st is when pretty much yesterday, I think the trades are starting to, the deadline's the 7th, and I think they're kind of heating up. Colorado made a trade with the Rangers, which kind of has ties to the Predators. Colorado acquired Jimmy Vesey and Ryan Lindgren, and I think he's more of a prospect, Hank Kempf. I don't recall that name. And the Rangers get Calvin DeHaan, which I think he used to play for the Islanders, and Yusuf Parson, a former Predator, and then they got a second and a 4th-round pick. So that could be big. I mean, Lindgren's a pretty good player. Calvin DeHaan, I think he's more. I believe he's kind of like aging. I'm not sure his actual age. And then, of course, we talk about the Nyquist trade. And another big one, Seth Jones. I know there's rumors going around about Chicago trading him. He's going to Florida. And a 4th-round pick. And the Blackhawks will get Spencer Knight and a 1st-round pick in 2026.
I think that's a good trade.
They obviously need goaltending. I don't know. I mean, Florida probably needs defense, but I don't know who their other goaltender is, because I know Spencer Knight, and I mentioned he played against the Predators. Actually, the game they just beat the Predators in my recap. He was playing in that game. But I don't. That's the only thing that kind of questions that move for the Panthers, because they can't just rely on Bobrovsky, I believe, is their goaltender, right? Yeah. You need 2 goaltenders, especially going into the playoffs. So I have to look in to see who their backup is, but I mean, I think the trades are starting to heat up. We'll probably have more next show. um, but I guess we can go into the PredWings 10. Kind of a surprise for me this week. Did we do that different last? Yeah, that's right. I did one, and then like the first pick. That's right. So I have Tampa Bay moving into number one, and I think we last show we both did one and then two. I believe, right? Is that how we did it?
Yeah, I've got. I could go Tampa Bay too. They're hot. They're 8-game winning streak. I'm good with that because we're not we don't look at the. We're just going by the top teams in the last week, pretty much.
Yeah, they're 7-0-1, and they're 8-game winning streak. Well,
I mean,
and there's this week has been funny. There's a lot of kind of mediocrity going on this week. I don't know what's going on with that.
whatever.
But number two,
I'm going Winnipeg.
I go in Winnipeg.
1-1.
I originally had them dropping a little bit more, but I decided to put them in number two. They're they just coming off an OT loss, I believe, but it's still first. But they're still they can't go on they just the Predators ended their 11-game win streak, so but they're not like falling off. Then I got Toronto number three. They're 8-2.
Me too.
5-game winning streak.
Yep.
And then I got Florida 4. They're on a 3-game win streak. They're 8-2 their last 10.
See, now this might be surprising, and it's going. I mean, I'm reaching here. I'm actually going Columbus. They looked really good. Now Detroit's not a slouch team. They've proven that they're in the wild card spot. They've had some really good win streaks, but I'm going to go Columbus.
And I got them at 5 because they're 6-3-1 and they're moved in the wild card spot. And 4-game
I've got Florida at 5.
So we just got to flip flop ours. And then number 6, I have Dallas. They are 7-2-1, win 2. And then in 7th, I had to put Colorado. They are 6-4. They're on a 2-game win streak.
Yeah, I'm going Vegas. I still think they're playing well.
Yeah, but Vegas is
and I got Colorado right after them.
And then number 8, I have New Jersey. They're just because like I said, there's a lot of Miraki's. They're 5-5. They're currently losing to Vegas right now. Actually, I don't know if that game might be final, but they are they won. They're on 1-game. They won 1. Let's see if the game is final. Yes, that is a final, and they got shut out 2-0. So, but I did that before this. So
who do you got for number 9?
What was your 8th pick? I didn't.
My 8th pick?
Who do you have at number 8?
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Okay. And then 9, I have Montreal. They're not in a playoff spot yet, but they're on a 4-game win streak, and even though they're 5-5 in their last 10, but they're a team that they're a sneaky team.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm going Edmonton.
Yeah, Edmonton is. Yeah, but they're still a good team, but they're sliding. Edmonton's. They just won 1, but they're 3-6-1. They had a losing streak. They had like a 6-game losing streak or 5-game losing, something like that. But then running out the top 10 for me, I almost dropped them out totally. But I just so many other teams that have been kind of not really stepping it up. But Washington, yeah, they lost. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 4-3-3 in their last 10, but look at the other options, and they're struggling. I think they'll find a way to to push it. I'm wondering if the Ovechkin thing, he's getting closer. He's got 11 goals now. I'm wondering if that's kind of weighing a little bit. And he was the only one that scored. So I think if he can get this out of the way, the sooner the better. And then, maybe, get back into the. But I just don't think Washington's going to go anywhere. I mean, they're still sitting in first in the division. And so, who do you have at 10?
I'm going Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah. So I have them dropping out along with Vegas, Carolina, and the Kings. And like I said, it was kind of hard this week. So my team of the week, I had to just go with Tampa Bay, even though I got them at number one, just because they're on that big hot win streak. So that's our 10, and let's see, let's revisit our picks real quick. Let's see, the Florida game, you were correct, I was wrong, and we both got Winnipeg wrong. I was right on the Islanders, you were wrong, and I was wrong on the Rangers, and you were correct. So that's so there was
what we got coming up here? Let's go through them.
And then
Boston tomorrow.
And then we got Boston at Boston. That's going to be a loss. And then they're back home against Seattle on Thursday. That one, I think.
Boston. No Marchand.
Yeah, but
dropping out of dropping like in the standings like crazy.
It's in Boston though.
So doesn't change my mind.
Seattle, I'm still going to go with a loss.
I agree with that.
And then they're still home on Saturday, the 8th against Chicago. They're going to lose that game. And then I think that should be it, because the next one's the 11th, which is a Tuesday. And then moving over to Detroit, let's see. I got three wrong. So that leads me to 5 in a row wrong. You were right on the Minnesota, and then you were right on the first Columbus, and you were wrong on the last Columbus. So that leads us into Tuesday night against Carolina.
I'm going to go with a win. I think since they've dropped 3 straight, that they're due.
I'm going to go with a win on that. And then Utah, which is the first meeting. Oh, I kind of stole that. That's their first meeting, I think.
Yep, and I'm going to go with a win.
They're going to lose. But Utah's that's the old Arizona team. They got a good team. It's in Detroit though, but I'm going to go with a loss on that. And they got back-to-backs
against Washington. I say we're winning the first. I say we're winning all 3.
I think they're going to beat Washington. I mean, I think, like I mentioned in the PredWings 10, I think the Ovechkin thing's starting to weigh on the team a little bit, especially as getting close.
I think it's making them play harder.
But they've lost the last 3 too.
Yeah.
And then the 10th is next Monday, so it should be just 3. So I'm going with win, loss, and a win for the Detroit side. And I'm going with 3 losses for the Predators. And overall, you got me by 8. And the Preds side, you got me by 4 or 3. And you got me by 5 on the wing side, 36-31. So I'm still over 50% on the wings, but you're 60%. So I'm struggling with the picks this year, mainly because of the Predators, I think. Although Detroit,
I was like that too until I realized that they're not. any better than they were last year. Actually, they're going backwards still. But that's all right.
I think that's about all we got for this show. I think that about wraps it up.
Wraps are done.
Yep. Weekly picks are in. So you can get us on our social media, PredWings Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and X and YouTube is at PredWings Pod, and you can always listen to us. Our live shows on Podbean, and our email is predwingspodcast@gmail.com. So once again, thanks for tuning in to the PredWings Podcast.
Good night, Hockey Town.
See ya, Smashville.